Hi everyone, I'm Cadence. This is Gemma, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming people pleasing with emotional mastery. So, Gemma, you've completed the emotional mastery program and have now also completed the coach training program. And I wanted to ask, what made you want to do the emotional mastery program?
Well, Cadence, that's a great question. So I guess it came at the right time. So with the pandemic hitting in, well, effectively 2020 here in New Zealand, the impact of it hit us. That year, I was under a lot of stress. I was taking a lot of responsibility at work. I'm a nurse, but I was in charge of the ward at the time that the pandemic hit New Zealand. And I was also trying to buy a house in the middle of a housing crisis and had put offers on a couple of houses and not been able to buy one. And a few other personal issues that I won't go into too deeply today. And so by the end of the year, I was feeling worn out, almost on the verge of burnout. I was really anxious. I was struggling to sleep. I was just always on edge and just a little bit worried about everything. It felt like nothing was working and I didn't really know what to do about it. But I knew that I couldn't keep living like that, and that I didn't enjoy it. And I went and saw a doctor who recommended that I take antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. But I tried them once and felt like a zombie and was like, I don't think this is a solution. This is just putting a band-aid over something. And I want something that's a change in me. I don't want to just cover it over. I want to actually work on what it is that's causing this anxiety. And so when I heard about the emotional mastery program, I was really interested because I could see that it was full of science based techniques that were designed to help you regulate your nervous system and to bring you back into balance in a more sustainable and long-term kind of way. And that was what I was really looking for.
Mm. And I'm sure so many people watching can resonate with that experience of going into like almost burnout, especially in 2020 and throughout the last few years with the pandemic. And, it's been an intense time for so many people. And yeah, not, wanting to change what's that deep core level rather than just putting a band-aid over it. And so what impact did the program have? Did you find the
Well,
change you were looking for?
yes, I did find the change I was looking for. And the program was great because it taught me a lot of really good skills, but it also provided the support that you need when you're working through this really deep emotional work. And I don't think I would have been able to do it by myself. I really liked the structure of the course. We had weekly sessions where we could ask questions. And I also had catch ups, one-on-one catch ups with my coach, which was you, Cadence. And I also had an accountability buddy. And so if I, wasn't feeling good, I could send a message to either my coach or my buddy and just say, this is what I'm going through. Is this normal? Is this how the practice is supposed to work? And just check in, and having someone send me messages and ask me how it's going as well was really helpful. And in terms of what the actual benefits were for me, so I learned that firstly that the anxiety that I was experiencing was actually a combination of lots of different emotions that I had been suppressing for a really long time. And it was an accumulation of stress and a bit of trauma in my body. And by doing these exercises, I was able to become more aware of specific emotions and release them and let them go and let go of some of the patterns of thinking that had been causing me to stay up at night, worrying, and to be able to release them and let them go. I remember doing the exercise in my hammock outside on the deck when I was feeling really angry And anger was an emotion that I, as a child, wasn't really encouraged to express. And I know that's quite common for a lot of women, especially, that we're told to be nice, play nice, and we don't necessarily get taught healthy ways to express anger or displeasure, like when we don't actually like something. To be able to speak out and say something can be really challenging. And so when I started working with this anxiety, that suddenly reared its head, and I started experiencing a lot of anger that I had pent up for a really long time. And I remember sitting in the hammock listening to the guided track, the audio, and just experiencing it and letting it go. And that was a really powerful thing for me, to be able to feel it and to sit with it, and then also to just let it pass. And sometimes it would come back, but then I was able to use these exercises again to sit with it and then let it pass and move it through my system, as opposed to just pushing it down like I'd been doing so many years.
And so now that you're not pushing things down, how has that impacted your day-to-day life? What are some of the changes in the way that you're interacting, working, that kind of thing?
Well, I found that because I was suppressing so much of my own emotions, my own desires, and my own needs, I was definitely a massive people pleaser. And I would say yes all the time to things. I would offer to help people with things that I actually didn't have the resources to be able to help people with, but I had this like desire to keep people happy and to do these things. And so I would give and give and give too much of myself, and then just end up feeling completely depleted. And by letting go of that desire to keep everyone else happy, and learning a bit more about what I needed to keep myself happy, I was noticing that my relationships started changing. And previously I'd tried consciously to change things, and I'd tried to put boundaries in place, and I'd tried to reinforce them, but it never stuck. And I would often put the boundary in place and then feel guilty, or put the boundary in place and then want to move it back again because I felt bad for putting it in place, or I didn't know how to react when the other person reacted badly. So I would retract my boundary or my statement so that I made the other person feel comfortable. But I found that when I let go of that, I was able to put a boundary in place and then not feel as anxious or upset when the other person didn't necessarily like my boundary. Or I guess I wasn't even aware. You have a thought that goes around in your head about what the other person's response is going to be, and I would assume that the person would respond badly, and often they wouldn't. But when you're feeling anxious, like when I was feeling anxious anyway, I would project my own anxiety onto other people. And so I would assume that the other person was going to feel as anxious as I did.
That's an amazing change. That's huge. And I feel like a lot of people would resonate with that experience of feeling like having this anxiety of making other people uncomfortable, and feeling more comfortable making yourself uncomfortable than upsetting anyone. And how does it feel to have started to let that go and be changing the way that you're doing things and putting in boundaries and upholding them?
I remember one of our phone calls where we were catching up about it, and I was telling you about how I just started doing these things, and started doing them without even consciously realizing I was doing it. I'd started saying no a lot more often. I'd started saying no to a lot of the household duties that I was doing without asking the others to help me. I'd just automatically taken on the role of doing everything, from groceries to the cooking to the cleaning, without even asking other people to help me. I just assumed that if I asked them to help, they would get annoyed. And I just had a baby, and I was pretty sleep deprived myself. So that also forced me to put in some boundaries. And I remember just saying, no, I'm not cooking anymore. I'm not doing it. And I didn't feel guilty for the first time that I could remember in a really long time. I didn't feel guilty, and I didn't care about what the other people in my family or my household were going to say about it. I just realized that was what I had to do to make myself well. And I did get some backlash. I did get them complaining a little bit, but then they all stepped up and started actually helping a bit more. And I think it actually helped them realize that how much I had been doing for them and appreciate me more, instead of the opposite is what you think, like what I thought. I was so anxious that I thought that when I put in this boundary that they were going to hate me, that they were going to think badly of me. But once I actually put in this boundary, after they got over the initial shock, they realized that actually I'd been doing heaps for them, and they became more appreciative and more grateful. And that felt really nice, and it was really rewarding. And then once I'd practiced it at home and I started putting in these boundaries, I started putting in boundaries in other areas. And I went back to work part-time. And normally I was the sort of nurse that would say yes to shifts that I didn't necessarily want. And I'd also suppressed a lot of my personality at work because I didn't want to be offensive. I didn't want to be too loud. I didn't want to be too chatty. I wanted to just be under the radar, kind of a bit neutral. I didn't want to offend anyone. I was always kind of walking on eggshells, like trying to be perfect, or I don't even know what, but I noticed a change when I went back to work, that I was able to express my personality a lot more. I was able to make more jokes. I wasn't so worried about how I was going to be perceived by everybody. I felt a lot more relaxed, and I had a lot more fun. And I looked forward to going to work because I knew that I could just be myself.
That's incredible. So like you were letting go of the worry about what people might think of you allowed you to show up authentically and actually enjoy yourself at work. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it I didn't necessarily it didn't go down well with everyone. There were a couple of people who really didn't like me coming into work being super joyful and super chatty, and there were a couple of people who kind of rolled their eyes and stuff. And previously I would have gone, okay, they don't like it, I've got to tone it down. I've got to tone it down, and I've just got to be a bit more quiet and a bit more calm, and just not rock the boat. But this time when I went back to work, I was just like, I just laughed. I was just like, oh, you guys are just taking life way too seriously. And I was able to just smile and be like, okay, they don't like it, doesn't matter, doesn't bother me. I'm just going to keep going, just be myself and have a good time.
That's so incredible. And so, I mean, how do you feel now about yourself showing up like that?
Yeah, I feel a lot better. I don't feel the same dread about going to work, and I don't feel as anxious in general. Like, there's obviously times that are stressful where I do find that I get a little bit of anxiety, but it's not controlling my life like it was before.
Amazing. So I'm hearing that you feel like you're able to show up, but that you're able to show up authentically in life rather than being controlled by anxiety and projecting and fear of what other people might think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Did you think that this was, when you started the program, did you think that this is where you would be by the end?
No, I think I thought that there was something like really deep down in me that was completely broken that I was going to uncover. Like, I thought that there was some childhood trauma or something that that had happened to me that I needed to like delve deep into and figure out or understand or relive. And But when I started doing these exercises and I started working through material and started understanding that actually you don't have to understand what happened to you to be able to move through that emotional trauma or stress, that you actually just have to be present with what you're experiencing in the moment, and then you're able to clear not only what you're experiencing in the moment, but stuff that's happened to you in the past, whether you're aware of it or not, you still can process that and move through it. And learning that alone is so helpful, because you can waste so much time in therapy or in personal development growth, reading so many books, blogs, and everything, trying to uncover these secrets and dark things that you think you have in your past, when actually it doesn't even matter. Like, you can still have progress and you can still work through these things that are happening in your life now, and be free from it. So it's really great.
That is absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's one of the most incredible things about the program is that you don't need to know everything that happened. You don't need to remember every traumatic event. Stuff comes up and is released in the moment. And as long as you're connected to your emotions and what you're feeling and giving them space, then they'll just release.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely felt that and continue to feel that as I do these exercises. I feel things move. I feel things change in my body, and then I notice the things change in my brain, as opposed to previously where I was trying to change everything up here. Like, I was trying to do it just with my mind, with my willpower, and it just doesn't work. Like, you try and consciously change the way you behave, and it only works for the amount of time that you can be conscious, which is not very much of the time, because as soon as you start talking, you're thinking about something else. Or you start doing something, you're not able to concentrate on that amount of focus of changing the way you think. So by changing the way you actually feel, naturally, then that changes the way you think. So by doing it that way around, it's a lot more sustainable, it's a lot more manageable, and it's a lot less consuming, because your body and your emotions are doing the work. Not, you don't have to consciously do it all.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for chatting today and for sharing your experience, and what an amazing experience. And I think that all of the people who become your clients, who you're now going to be coaching through the program, are going to really benefit from you having gone through that experience and knowing exactly where, knowing what it's like to go through that, knowing what's possible, and being able to guide them through that as someone who's been there. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, and for being present for this, and being able to support me through it as well. It's been a really great journey.
Oh, likewise.